Every day, millions of passengers hear the same announcement: please switch your devices to airplane mode. Most of us comply, but secretly wonder, is this outdated nonsense, or could my phone actually bring down this aircraft? The truth is more complex and more dangerous than airlines have ever told you. In 2014, Boeing discovered that specific cockpit displays on their 737s and 777s had a terrifying vulnerability. During routine testing, engineers watched in horror as critical flight displays went completely black. The culprit? Wi-Fi and cellular signals from passenger devices operating on the same frequencies. The FAA immediately grounded thousands of aircraft, mandating emergency hardware replacements across the entire fleet. This wasn't theoretical. This was reproducible, documented proof that phones could disable critical flight systems. But display blackouts are just one way your phone threatens flight safety. Pilots report a phenomenon they call GSM buzz, a maddening interference that sounds like angry wasps in their headsets. This rhythmic dat occurs when phones desperately search for cell towers, transmitting at maximum power. During takeoff and landing, the most critical phases of flight, this interference can block communication with air traffic control. In 2003, a New Zealand investigation linked a fatal crash to possible cell phone interference with the aircraft's glide slope. 8 people died when the Piper Chieftain descended too low on approach, with the pilot's active phone cited as a contributing factor. But the airplane itself isn't the only victim of airborne phones. There's a second federal agency with its own ban. The FCC prohibits airborne cellular use not for aviation safety, but to protect the ground networks we all depend on. At 30,000 feet, your phone can see hundreds of cell towers simultaneously, a view it was never designed to have. Flying at 500 miles per hour, phones frantically switch between towers, creating what engineers call a signaling storm. Multiply this by hundreds of passengers, and you're flooding the network's control channels, potentially crashing service for entire cities below. Your phone, desperately trying to maintain connection, cranks up to maximum transmission power, making the interference problem even worse. This is why Wi-Fi is allowed, but cellular isn't. Wi-Fi uses low power to reach the plane's router, not blast signals to Earth. But just when we thought we understood the risks, a new threat emerged that makes everything else look minor. In 2022, America's 5G rollout created a genuine aviation crisis that grounded flights and triggered emergency federal action. The problem centers on radio altimeters, the instruments that tell pilots exactly how high they are above the ground. These devices operate at 4.2 to 4.4 gigahertz, while American 5G operates dangerously close at 3.7 to 3.98 gigahertz. In Europe, there's a 400 megahertz buffer zone between these frequencies. In America, just 220 megahertz. Worse yet, American 5G towers transmit at significantly higher power levels than their European counterparts. When powerful 5G signals bleed into altimeter frequencies, the instruments can freeze, read zero, or give false readings. For an aircraft on automatic landing in fog, this could mean the autopilot thinks it's higher than reality, a potentially fatal error. The FAA ordered the replacement of over 17,000 radio altimeters across the US commercial fleet, a massive, expensive undertaking. Before these upgrades, the FAA banned automated landings at airports near 5G towers, causing chaos across the aviation system. So, if the risks are real and documented, why do some international airlines allow phone calls in flight? The answer is a technology called picocells, essentially mini cell towers installed inside the aircraft cabin. Picocells force all phones to transmit at minimum power and route calls via satellite, solving both the interference and network problems. But American Airlines resist this solution, citing cost and a darker concern: the social nightmare of hundreds of simultaneous phone conversations. Airlines fear air rage incidents would skyrocket if passengers endured hours of their neighbors' phone calls at 30,000 feet. The science is clear. Electromagnetic interference from phones is real, documented, and has caused actual hardware failures. Ground networks can be overwhelmed by airborne phones, and 5G has introduced new risks to critical landing systems. NASA's Aviation Safety Database contains hundreds of pilot reports linking passenger devices to navigation anomalies and autopilot disconnects. Between 2003 and 2009 alone, the aviation industry documented 75 serious incidents potentially linked to personal electronic devices. So the next time you hear that familiar announcement, remember it's not airline paranoia or outdated tradition. It's physics, engineering, and decades of evidence protecting you, your fellow passengers, and millions of people on the ground below. Your phone in airplane mode isn't just following rules. It's preventing your device from becoming an unintentional weapon against modern aviation. In an age where technology promises connection everywhere, sometimes the smartest thing we can do is disconnect. Because 30,000 feet above Earth, that simple switch might be the most important button you'll ever push.